Most people think of ascension as a straight climb upward. More knowledge, higher vibrations, a continuous state of bliss. But that's where they get it wrong. True spiritual growth isn't just about reaching new heights. It's about something far more profound. Let's set the record straight. Ascension is not an escape. It's not about running away from struggle or floating above human experience. If anything, the journey demands that you step into reality more fully than ever before. And here's the part most people won't tell you. It's not always beautiful. It's not always peaceful. But it's always necessary. This is where the foundation of ascension begins, and without it, the entire process crumbles. Everything in your life, every moment of doubt, every challenge, every breakthrough, is part of a larger system guiding you toward higher consciousness. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. But here's the twist. The more you resist this process, the harder it becomes. Think about it. The moments that tested you the most, weren't they the same moments that transformed you? That wasn't an accident. Every difficulty was a doorway. But the question is, did you walk through, or did you hesitate? Understanding this is step one. The ascension journey isn't about gaining control. It's about surrendering to something far greater. When people first feel the call to ascension, they respond in one of two ways. Some fight it. They cling to old patterns, trying to make sense of things with logic alone. They view discomfort as a problem instead of a teacher. These people feel stuck, lost, or trapped in cycles that repeat endlessly. Others embrace it. They recognize the discomfort as a signpost. Instead of resisting, they lean in. They ask different questions. They stop searching for shortcuts and start preparing for the real work. The difference between these two paths? One leads to frustration. The other leads to transformation. Modern spirituality often paints an unrealistic picture. Meditate for 10 minutes, and you'll reach enlightenment. Read the right book, and your life will change overnight. But here's the truth, ascension is not instant. It's a process, and real transformation doesn't happen in comfort. The idea that growth should be effortless is a trap. Every stage of ascension requires you to unlearn as much as you learn. It's not just about adding new knowledge, it's about dismantling illusions. And that takes work. So before we explore the 12 stages, you need to know the 3 things that make or break your spiritual evolution. Miss these and you'll keep circling back to the same lessons. Master them and you'll move through the stages with clarity and purpose. 1. Radical self-honesty. Growth starts the moment you stop lying to yourself. That means questioning your own beliefs, challenging your assumptions, and acknowledging where you've been avoiding the truth. The deeper your honesty, the higher your consciousness can rise. 2. Willingness to let go. Holding on to old identities, limiting beliefs, or outdated perspectives is like trying to climb a mountain with a heavy backpack. Every attachment weighs you down. The more you release, the lighter your journey becomes. 3. Commitment to the unknown. Ascension is unpredictable. It will take you places your mind cannot plan for. The more you try to control the journey, the more resistance you create. The key is learning to trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense. Now that you know the foundation, there's one more thing you need to understand. Ascension is not a checklist. You don't simply move from stage 1 to stage 12 in a straight line. It's fluid. You may revisit certain stages. You may experience multiple at once. But what you're about to discover will change how you see every part of your life. Past, present, and future. Because once you recognize these 12 stages, you'll know exactly where you are and exactly where you're headed. And it all begins with the first stage, the call to awakening. Something shifts. It's subtle at first, like a quiet whisper in the background of your mind. But then it grows. The way you see the world starts to change, and suddenly what once felt normal now seems off. Conversations feel empty. Routines feel meaningless. A feeling you can't quite explain begins to take over. This is no coincidence. This is the call to awakening. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. This stage isn't gentle. It doesn't arrive wrapped in comfort or clarity. It shakes you. It disrupts everything you thought you knew. And if you don't understand what's happening, it can feel like something is wrong with you. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is the first step toward pure consciousness, but only if you recognize it for what it truly is. Some experience this stage as an inner restlessness, a feeling that something is missing, even if everything seems fine on the surface. Others go through it as an external shift, losing relationships, questioning their beliefs, or suddenly feeling disconnected from the life they've built. The signs are different for everyone, but here's what they all have in common: a growing discomfort with routine and surface-level interactions, an unexplained pull toward deeper meaning, a sudden awareness that something isn't adding up about reality, a desire to seek answers beyond what you've been told, a sense of separation from the version of yourself you used to be. If any of this sounds familiar, you're already in it. Most people resist this stage, and it's easy to see why. Everything familiar starts to feel foreign. The things that used to bring happiness no longer satisfy. Old dreams seem irrelevant. Friendships shift. Identity cracks. This is where fear creeps in. If you don't know what's happening, it's tempting to fight against it, to cling to old ways of thinking, to numb the discomfort, to convince yourself that everything is fine. But that's not how awakening works. The reason this stage feels so intense is because your perception of reality is being rewritten. The foundation you've lived on, your beliefs, your conditioning, your sense of self, is being dismantled to make room for something higher. And that process is never comfortable. But it's necessary. Discomfort is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It's a sign that something is working. Most people ignore this stage. They dismiss the signs, bury the questions, and try to return to the life they once knew. But once the call has been heard, there's no going back. Not fully. There is, however, a choice. You can suppress it. Pretend nothing is happening. Convince yourself that you're just overthinking. But deep down, the feeling will remain. It will keep resurfacing, louder each time, until you're forced to confront it. Or you can do the one thing that changes everything. You can listen. This doesn't mean forcing answers. It doesn't mean running toward the first belief system that promises clarity. It means allowing yourself to question, paying attention to the feeling that something more exists, being open to the idea that reality is bigger than you've been taught. Because once you say yes to that possibility, the real journey begins. Every awakening is different. Some experience it as a sudden realization, others as a slow unraveling. But no matter how it happens, one truth remains. Once the call has been answered, the search for truth cannot be stopped. This is where many go looking for guidance, seeking wisdom from books, teachers, and spiritual traditions. And while that can be powerful, there's a hidden trap waiting in this next stage. One that keeps countless seekers stuck, lost in an endless loop of learning without transformation. Understanding this trap is crucial, because knowing what to seek is just as important as knowing what to question. The moment awakening begins, curiosity takes over. Questions arise faster than answers. Everything once accepted as truth is now under scrutiny. What is reality? Who am I beyond my thoughts? Why do I feel drawn to something beyond the physical? This hunger for knowledge is powerful. It pushes people toward books, teachers, ancient texts, and spiritual practices. It opens doors to ideas that were once unimaginable. But there's something few people realize about this stage. The same desire that sparks transformation can also become a prison. It starts innocently. A book leads to another. A video sparks an insight. A teacher explains something that resonates deeply. But before long, something shifts. The search becomes endless. One teaching contradicts another. Each new perspective feels like the missing piece, yet clarity remains out of reach. The result? Information overload. Instead of deepening their journey, many get stuck in an intellectual maze, collecting knowledge without applying it. Here's the hard truth. Reading about enlightenment is not the same as experiencing it. Knowing spiritual concepts doesn't mean living them. And no amount of external learning will replace inner transformation. The key is understanding which teachings to trust and which to let go. Not all knowledge is equal. Some teachings expand consciousness. Others create illusions. The difference isn't in the words themselves, but in the effect they have on your mind. So how do you tell the difference? 1. A true teaching leads inward. It doesn't give you answers. It helps you discover your own. If a system tells you to follow blindly, it's not expanding you. It's controlling you. 2. A true teaching challenges your identity. If a concept only reinforces who you think you are, it's keeping you trapped. Growth requires questioning even the beliefs that feel most comfortable. 3. A true teaching feels alive. It resonates on a level beyond logic. It sparks awareness, not just agreement. But the biggest test? Any teaching that makes you dependent on something outside yourself, whether a guru, a system, or a method, is limiting your growth. Real truth empowers you to seek within. At some point, something clicks. A realization emerges. The knowledge itself is not the goal. It's simply a tool, a map, not the destination. This is when the search begins to shift. Instead of asking, what else can I learn? The question becomes, how can I experience this truth directly? And that's when everything changes. The hunger for knowledge transforms into a deeper calling. The urge to let go, to step beyond words and concepts, to surrender old identities and step into something unknown. This is the turning point. Most hesitate here. Letting go of the search feels like losing control. But the paradox of ascension is this. True wisdom isn't found in accumulating more. It's found in releasing what no longer serves. And once this realization takes hold, the next stage begins. But it doesn't come gently. It demands something that most aren't willing to give up. Everything built up until this point, every belief, every identity, every certainty, now faces the ultimate test. This stage is not about gaining more insight. It's about losing everything you thought you knew. And this is where most people panic. Why? Because the mind clings to familiarity. Even when knowledge expands, the ego still wants something to hold on to. A sense of self, a structure, a belief system that makes sense of it all. But true ascension demands something radical. Not the accumulation of more understanding, but the willingness to release it. And that's where this stage begins. Every belief carries weight. Some seem harmless. Others feel foundational. But they all have one thing in common: they shape perception. And the moment perception shifts, reality follows. This is why letting go is terrifying. It's not just about surrendering opinions. It's about dissolving the framework of reality itself. Think about the beliefs that once felt unshakable. Maybe they came from childhood. Maybe they were adopted from spiritual teachings. Maybe they were conclusions formed through personal experience. But here's the question. Are they true? Or are they just familiar? This stage forces an uncomfortable realization. Many of the beliefs held most tightly were never chosen consciously. They were absorbed, inherited, accepted without question. And now they must be dismantled. Because ascension isn't about stacking new beliefs on top of old ones. It's about clearing space for direct experience. And that means surrender. At first, this process feels like loss. A stripping away of certainty. A disorientation that makes the mind desperate to hold onto something, anything, for stability. But then something shifts. A moment arrives when the weight lifts. The need for control fades. The pressure to figure everything out dissolves. And in its place, freedom. Not the kind that comes from escaping problems. The kind that comes from no longer being ruled by them. Because once the grip of old beliefs loosens, a new state emerges. One that isn't confined by past conditioning, mental constructs, or external validation. A state where reality is no longer filtered through fear, expectation, or identity. And that's when the real breakthrough happens. Letting go isn't about erasing the mind. It's not about rejecting everything. It's about loosening attachment so that thoughts, beliefs, and emotions no longer define existence. So how do you know when this stage is complete? 1. Triggers lose their power. The things that once sparked anger, fear, or resistance begin to pass through without gripping you. 2. You stop seeking external validation. The need for approval, recognition, or certainty fades. There's a quiet trust in the unfolding of experience. 3. You embrace the unknown. Instead of fearing uncertainty, there's an openness to it. A realization that not knowing is not a weakness, it's a doorway. And once this shift occurs, a new energy emerges. One that isn't built on seeking, learning, or striving, but on something far more authentic. Because after everything is stripped away, the only thing left is truth. And that truth isn't found outside. It isn't given by a teacher, a system, or a philosophy. It's found by looking in the one place most people avoid. And that's exactly where this journey leads next. When everything false falls away, something unexpected happens. A question arises not from the mind, but from the depths of existence itself. Who am I, really? Most people assume they already know the answer. They identify with their personality, their past, their emotions, and their thoughts. But the self they think they are, the one built from memories, roles, and social conditioning, isn't the real self. It's a mask. And in this stage, that mask begins to dissolve. But here's the paradox. Finding your true self isn't about discovering something new. It's about recognizing what has always been there, hidden beneath the noise. And once you see it, everything changes. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. Not just a physical mirror, but a reflection of your consciousness. Every belief you hold, every label you've adopted, every identity you've clung to, all staring back at you. Most people look at this reflection and see only the surface. They see the roles they play, the thoughts they think, the emotions they feel. But what happens when all of that is set aside? A simple question can shatter illusions. If I am not my thoughts, not my past, not my identity, then who is looking through my eyes right now? This moment of inquiry is more powerful than years of spiritual study. Because once awareness shifts from what you are to who you are beyond the mind, the entire structure of self begins to collapse. The biggest obstacle in this stage is the fear of letting go. People cling to their identities because they believe that without them, they'll disappear. But that's an illusion. Let's break it down. The version of you that reacts, fears, and craves validation, that's conditioning. The version of you that holds onto labels, beliefs, and past wounds, that's programming. The version of you that constantly narrates your experience, that's the mind. None of these are the real you. So what happens when these layers begin to dissolve? First, it feels unsettling. There's a moment of emptiness, like standing at the edge of an abyss with nothing to hold on to. But then, something else emerges. Stillness, presence, a vast awareness that has no name, no form, no limitation. This is the real self, the one that has been there all along, quietly observing. The self that isn't bound by personal history, external opinions, or mental chatter. And once this is seen, the illusion of separation begins to fade. People often misunderstand authenticity. They think it means expressing their personality without filters. But true authenticity has nothing to do with personality. It has nothing to do with how you dress, how you speak, or what opinions you hold. Authenticity is not about what you do. It's about where you operate from. Most people move through life acting from a constructed self, a collection of beliefs, fears, and attachments. True authenticity means moving from presence, not identity. It means responding to life from awareness, not conditioning. And here's the paradox. The less you try to be someone, the more you embody your true self. The less you define yourself, the more real you become. The moment you stop seeking an identity, you step into something far greater, pure consciousness moving freely through experience. This is the shift that leads to the next stage. But before that happens, there's something crucial that must take place. Because even after realizing the true self, something still lingers, something that holds people back from embodying their highest state. And if this next step is ignored, ascension comes to a halt. Realization alone isn't enough. Even after glimpsing the truth of who you are, something lingers beneath the surface. Unresolved pain, emotional wounds, patterns that seem to repeat no matter how much awareness expands. This is where many get stuck. They believe awakening means leaving the past behind, transcending pain, or bypassing emotions altogether. But that's not how this works. True ascension isn't about escaping. It's about integration. And that means facing what's been buried. Why does pain persist, even after deep spiritual insights? Because emotions don't just disappear. They live in the body, stored in muscles, organs, and energy fields. Every moment of fear, rejection, or betrayal, especially the ones never fully processed, gets locked inside. And here's the part most people miss. Healing isn't just about releasing emotions. It's about uncovering the beliefs attached to them. Think about it. Every emotional wound carries a story. I wasn't good enough. I was abandoned. I was betrayed. I am unworthy of love. These stories create invisible barriers. They shape relationships, influence decisions, and limit growth. And until they're fully seen and released, they continue to run in the background, no matter how much spiritual knowledge is gained. So how do you break free? Not by suppressing, not by overanalyzing, but by stepping into direct experience. Most people approach healing the wrong way. They either try to think their way through it or avoid it altogether. But healing doesn't happen in the mind. It happens in the body. Here's a powerful shift. Instead of analyzing pain, feel it. Not as a thought, but as a raw sensation in the body. Where is it located? What does it feel like? Heavy, sharp, tight? What happens when you simply allow it to exist without trying to fix it? This is the key. The moment pain is met with full presence, without resistance, without judgment, it begins to dissolve. Because emotions only stay trapped when they're avoided. The body holds onto what the mind refuses to face. And the deepest layer of this process, forgiveness, not the kind taught in self-help books, not the kind that says, it's okay, I forgive you while still carrying resentment inside. Real forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about reclaiming your own energy. Most people think forgiveness means condoning what happened. It doesn't. It means cutting the energetic cord that keeps pain alive. Here's the truth. Holding on to anger and blame keeps wounds open, ties you to the past. And whether that blame is directed at someone else or yourself, it acts as an anchor keeping consciousness stuck. So how do you break free? 1. Acknowledge the pain fully. Feel it in the body. Let it rise without suppression. 2. See the hidden lesson. Every experience, no matter how painful, carries wisdom. What did it teach you? What strength did it reveal? 3. Release the emotional charge. Not intellectually, but energetically. This can happen through breathwork, movement, or simply allowing emotions to move through without resistance. 4. Let go of the identity attached to the wound. Who would you be without this story? What would life feel like if this pain no longer defined you? And then choose freedom. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you do. Because the moment forgiveness happens at a soul level, something extraordinary unfolds. The weight lifts, the cycle ends, and a space opens up inside, one that is no longer filled with past pain, but with something far more powerful, love. And that is exactly where this journey leads next. Something profound happens after deep healing. The weight of past wounds lifts. The mind stops fighting itself. And for the first time, there's space, space to experience something far greater than the personal self. Love. Not the fleeting kind based on circumstances or emotions. Not the kind that depends on external validation, but a force so powerful, so expansive, that it transforms everything it touches. Most people misunderstand love. They see it as a feeling, something that comes and goes. But true love isn't something you experience. It's something you become. And this stage is where that transformation begins. There's a reason love feels different at this stage. It's not just an idea, it's a measurable energy shift. Science confirms that the heart isn't just a pump. It generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, influencing brain waves, nervous system function, and even the energy of those around you. When emotions like fear, stress, or resentment dominate, this field becomes erratic. But when love and gratitude take over, the heart enters a state of coherence, a rhythm that synchronizes the entire body into harmony. And here's the real breakthrough. Heart coherence doesn't just change your state. It influences the environment. It shifts the energy of people around you. It creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond what the mind can comprehend. But to access this power, love must go beyond a concept. It must become a living force within you. Most people think love is something received, that it comes from relationships, experiences, or spiritual highs. But love isn't something given or taken. It's the very essence of existence itself. And in this stage, love is no longer conditional. It's no longer limited to certain people, moments, or situations. It becomes an unshakable presence that flows through everything. But there's a challenge here. The mind resists unconditional love. It wants to categorize, justify, and protect itself. It clings to old fears, keeping the heart guarded. And until those walls collapse, the full power of love remains untapped. So how does that shift happen? This isn't about forcing love. It's about opening to what is already present beneath the layers of the mind. Here's a powerful way to access it. 1. Bring awareness to your heart. Shift attention away from the mind. Feel the energy in the center of your chest. 2. Breathe deeply and slowly. Extend the inhale, relax the exhale. Synchronize breath with awareness. 3. Generate the feeling of gratitude. Not as a thought, but as an experience. Focus on something, anything that evokes genuine appreciation. 4. Expand it. Let the feeling grow beyond the body. Fill the space around you. Feel it radiate outward, unrestricted. 5. Rest in the state. No effort, no expectation, just presence in the energy of love itself. At first, it may feel subtle, but the more this practice is embodied, the more it transforms every interaction, every thought, every moment of life. Because love isn't something separate. It isn't something to seek. It's what remains when everything else fades. And once this energy becomes the foundation, something profound happens. Purpose shifts. Desire shifts. The very direction of life takes a turn. Because at this stage, something deeper begins calling. A force beyond the personal self, beyond individual healing. And answering that call changes everything. At this stage, a realization begins to take shape, one that changes the entire trajectory of life. All the searching, all the struggles, all the breakthroughs, they were never random. They were leading to something, a deeper alignment, a higher purpose, a path that was waiting long before the mind became aware of it. But here's the paradox. Most people spend their lives searching for purpose in the wrong direction. They look outward, chasing achievements, seeking external meaning, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. But purpose isn't something found. It's something remembered. And in this stage, that remembering begins. The biggest mistake people make when looking for purpose? They believe it's something separate from them, something they need to achieve or discover. That's why so many feel lost. They try to fit themselves into a role, follow a path that doesn't resonate, or force themselves into a version of success that was never meant for them. But real alignment isn't about adding something to your life. It's about removing everything that isn't you. Think about it. Every moment of dissatisfaction, every feeling of being off track, every inner conflict. These aren't signs that you haven't found your path. They're signs that something false is still being held on to. Because when alignment happens, there is no doubt, no confusion, no hesitation. There is only a deep, undeniable knowing. Here's something most people don't realize. Your soul's purpose isn't a single job, role, or external mission. It's not limited to a career, a project, or a title. It's an energetic blueprint, a frequency that only you can bring into this world. And that frequency can express itself in infinite ways. This is why people who are deeply aligned don't operate from effort. They don't force things. They move with an ease that others can sense because they're no longer chasing purpose. They're living it. So how do you recognize this blueprint? Not through the mind, not through logic, but through resonance. What makes time disappear? What brings a feeling of deep fulfillment, even without external rewards? What feels like home, even when it challenges you? These aren't just passing interests. They are signals, direct messages from the soul. And when those signals are followed, something incredible happens. Opportunities arise. Doors open. Life itself begins to organize around alignment. But there's one final step to fully stepping into the stage. Alignment isn't just a feeling. It's a way of living. And it requires action, not forced, not desperate, but intentional. Here's a powerful way to make that shift. 1. Silence the external noise. Step away from distractions. Let go of opinions, expectations, and external influences. 2. Tune into resonance. Pay attention to what feels aligned, not just what seems logical or safe. 3. Trust the pull. When something keeps calling, follow it. Even if it doesn't make sense. Even if it requires letting go of the known. 4. Act from alignment, not fear. Every choice either moves you closer to your soul's path or away from it. Let your decisions reflect where you're meant to be. 5. Let the path reveal itself. The mind wants a detailed map. The soul works differently. Clarity comes through action, not before it. And once this shift is made, something profound occurs. The struggle of finding purpose disappears. Because purpose is no longer a question, it's an experience. And that experience leads directly into the next stage. Because once alignment happens, something new emerges. A pull to share this transformation, not just for personal growth, but for something far greater. Something shifts once soul alignment becomes clear. The search for personal meaning fades. The endless cycle of self-improvement quiets. And a new realization takes its place. This journey was never just about you. Because the more aligned you become, the more one truth becomes undeniable. Awakening isn't complete until it's shared. This stage is where the energy of ascension begins expanding beyond the self, rippling outward in ways that change the world around you. But here's the part most don't expect. Service isn't about sacrifice. It's not about selflessness in the way most people have been taught. In fact, trying to help others from a place of depletion does more harm than good. Real service is something else entirely. Every soul on this path reaches a moment where giving becomes the next step. But how that giving unfolds is critical. Most assume service means doing something, giving time, energy, or resources. But the most powerful service doesn't come from external actions alone. It comes from presence. Think about the people who have impacted you the most. Chances are it wasn't just their words or actions, it was their energy. The way they moved through life. The way they held space. The way their presence shifted something inside you without even trying. This is the essence of true service. It's not about forcing change. It's about being change. And when that shift happens, something incredible unfolds. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to push wisdom onto others. Your energy alone begins to awaken something in those around you. This is the ripple effect of consciousness. Here's the paradox most don't realize. The moment you begin guiding, teaching, or uplifting others, your own transformation deepens. Why? Because spiritual truths become fully integrated when shared. When you articulate wisdom, when you hold space for someone else's journey, when you help another rise, you don't just reinforce knowledge, you embody it. This is why those who step into service often experience rapid acceleration in their own growth. But there's a challenge here, a mistake that many make when stepping into this stage. And that mistake is imbalance. Many fall into the trap of overgiving. They pour energy into others but forget to replenish themselves. And when that happens, service turns into depletion. True service doesn't come from burnout. It doesn't come from obligation. It comes from overflow. Here's the key. 1. Give from a full cup. Service should feel expansive, not draining. If exhaustion follows, realignment is needed. 2. Honor your own evolution. Helping others doesn't mean pausing your own growth. The more you elevate, the more you can uplift. 3. Detach from results. The purpose of service isn't to fix anyone. It's to offer energy, wisdom, and presence, without attachment to how others receive it. 4. Stay grounded. This stage can bring an expanded sense of responsibility. But remember, you are not responsible for awakening others, only for embodying truth. And when service is approached from this place, something extraordinary happens. Giving doesn't deplete. It energizes. It expands consciousness beyond the personal self. It creates a cycle where every act of service becomes an act of self-realization. Because in the end, the one you uplift the most is yourself. And as this truth takes root, something else begins calling, something even deeper. A connection beyond just personal growth or service. A direct experience of something infinite. And stepping into that changes everything. A profound shift begins at this stage. One that cannot be fully described, only experienced. Everything that once seemed separate starts to dissolve. The personal self, the external world, even the concept of spiritual growth itself. They all merge into something greater. This is where the illusion of division fades. The idea of being apart from the divine, of needing to reach, seek, or strive for connection, is revealed for what it truly is, an illusion that was never real to begin with. And once this realization takes hold, everything changes. For lifetimes, humanity has been conditioned to believe that divinity is something outside of them, something distant, something reserved for the enlightened, the chosen, the few. But that belief itself is the greatest barrier. The truth? Divinity was never lost. It was never separate. It was never something to reach, only something to remember. At this stage, the mind stops grasping for answers, and a deeper knowing emerges. There is no journey to the divine. You were never apart from it. There is nothing to attain. You already are what you've been seeking. There is no final step. Only the direct experience of presence, here and now. And this realization isn't just a mental concept. It's something that transforms existence itself. But there's a challenge here. If divine connection was always present, why do so many struggle to experience it? The reason is simple. It was never about finding connection. It was about removing what blocks it. Think of the sky. The sun is always shining, even when clouds cover it. But if you identify only with the clouds, the distractions, the doubts, the conditioned beliefs, it seems as if the sun is gone. But the moment those clouds dissolve, the truth is undeniable. The light was never absent, only hidden. Divine connection works the same way. It's not something that comes and goes. It's something that has been constant, waiting beneath the layers of illusion. And once those layers fall away, a new way of being takes shape. This isn't about ritual. It's not about technique. It's about direct experience, stepping beyond the mind and into pure awareness. Here's a way to access that state. 1. Shift from seeking to being. Stop searching. Stop trying. Let go of the idea that there's something more to find. 2. Rest in awareness. Not as the thinker, not as the identity, but as the silent presence behind it all. 3. Feel the space between thoughts. Notice the stillness that has always been there, the part of you that is untouched by time, emotion, or form. 4. Let go of the personal self. Even for a moment, release identification with the body, the story, the name. What remains? 5. Recognize that this is it. There is no future moment where connection will happen. It is here, now, always. And once this is seen, the entire experience of life shifts. Because now, there is no need to chase spirituality. No need to struggle with ascension. No need to wonder when the next breakthrough will arrive. Divine connection isn't something to work toward. It's the foundation of everything. And as this realization deepens, life takes on a new rhythm. One where each moment, each interaction, each breath becomes an expression of that connection. But there's still one question left. How do you live from this state? How do you take this experience and weave it into daily life? Because awakening isn't about escaping reality. It's about transforming it. And that's where the next stage begins. Spiritual awakening isn't meant to be an isolated experience. It's not something that happens in meditation only to be forgotten in daily life. True ascension is lived. It shows up in the way you move through the world, the way you interact with others, and the way you embody what you've realized. And this is where many face a challenge. Because after profound experiences of higher consciousness, there's a temptation to withdraw, to see daily life as a distraction from spirituality. But that mindset itself creates separation. This stage is about something far greater, the merging of the divine and the ordinary, the ability to carry presence, alignment, and deep awareness into every aspect of existence. When integration happens, spirituality isn't something practiced. It becomes who you are. The first moments after waking set the tone for the entire day. What the mind absorbs in this period shapes perception, energy, and alignment. That's why a simple yet powerful practice can create massive shifts. 1. Before opening your eyes, tune into presence. Instead of reaching for your phone, before thinking about your to-do list, pause. Feel the stillness. Recognize the awareness that existed even in sleep. 2. Breathe with intention. A deep inhale, a slow exhale. This signals to the body and mind that the day will be met with clarity, not reaction. 3. Set an energetic frequency. Instead of focusing on tasks, focus on how you want to move through the day. Aligned, grounded, expansive, lock in that state now. 4. Anchor the body. Whether through stretching, movement, or simply placing both feet on the floor with awareness, connect with physical presence. 5. Engage with consciousness first. Read something that expands awareness. Listen to something that aligns your energy. Before engaging with the external world, align with the internal. This practice rewires the way the mind operates. Instead of being pulled into the chaos of the day, consciousness takes the lead. And that changes everything. Every stage of ascension carries its own energetic shifts, and each one benefits from a different approach. For grounding during transformation, walk barefoot on natural ground, work with breath awareness, or engage in slow, intentional movement. For emotional release, shake out stagnant energy, use deep exhalation techniques, or channel emotion through sound, humming, toning, or even silent internal vibration. For heightened intuition, spend time in silence. Tune into the body's subtle responses. Follow instinct without overanalyzing. For deepening divine connection, shift focus from thoughts to space, between breaths, between words, between actions. Let stillness be felt fully. Mastering these techniques allows for effortless adaptation. No matter what arises, the tools to stay aligned are always present. Nature isn't just a backdrop for spiritual growth. It's an active force in the ascension process. Ancient traditions understood this deeply. They didn't seek wisdom apart from the natural world. They received it through it, because nature itself is a direct expression of consciousness. Trees teach stability and presence, the ability to stand firm while remaining open to change. Water teaches surrender and flow, the ability to navigate obstacles without resistance. The sun teaches expansion and radiance, the ability to shine without seeking validation. The night sky teaches infinite perspective, the ability to see beyond the personal self. Spending time in nature isn't just about relaxation. It's about attunement, a recalibration of energy, a reminder of the natural rhythms of life. And when nature is consciously engaged with, something profound happens. The mind slows, the ego quiets, the deeper self begins to speak. This is why every spiritual tradition, every enlightened teacher, every ancient wisdom keeper has emphasized one thing. If you want to remember who you are, step outside. Listen, observe, and let nature show you. Because integration isn't about adding more spiritual practices. It's about removing the barriers between you and the truth that has always been present. And as this integration solidifies, a new understanding begins to form, one that brings every stage together into a single, unshakable realization, a realization that leads to the final step of this journey. Awakening doesn't mean retreating from the world. It's not about isolating yourself in endless meditation, escaping daily responsibilities, or disconnecting from reality. True spiritual mastery is found in the ability to bring higher consciousness into everyday life. Because what's the point of realizing deep truths if they can't be lived? This stage is about merging wisdom with action, bringing presence into relationships, work, and daily habits, so that ascension becomes a natural way of being, rather than something separate from life. How you start the day determines how your energy unfolds. And while most people wake up and immediately fall into distraction, checking notifications, worrying about responsibilities, rushing into tasks, there's another way, a way that aligns your energy from the very first moment. 1. Awaken with awareness. Before thoughts begin, before movement happens, simply notice the state of being. Feel the stillness. Let presence be the first experience of the day. 2. Anchor into breath. Conscious breathing regulates energy instantly. A few deep, intentional breaths create the foundation for clarity. 3. Set an internal intention. Not about tasks, but about how you will move through the day. Will you embody peace? Will you act with awareness? Choose a guiding state. 4. Move with presence. Even small physical movements, stretching, standing, walking, become an opportunity to feel grounded and centered. 5. Engage with something expansive. Whether through reading, reflection, or inner stillness, allow your mind to receive something that elevates consciousness before stepping into external obligations. With this foundation, the day is no longer something that happens to you. It's something you create, something shaped by awareness instead of reactivity. And this shift alone accelerates spiritual evolution. Each stage of ascension carries unique energetic shifts, and integrating them fully requires attunement to what the body, mind, and spirit need at different moments. For grounding through transformation, walk barefoot on natural ground, connect with slow, deliberate breathwork, and engage in movement that centers awareness. For releasing emotional blockages, use deep exhalations, shake out stagnant energy, or engage in sound vibration, humming, toning, or silent inner resonance. For activating intuition, spend time in silence, observe bodily sensations, and practice following instinct without overanalyzing. For strengthening divine connection, shift attention from thoughts to the space between them. Focus on the stillness that exists beneath all mental noise. By consciously using these techniques, integration becomes effortless. Challenges no longer feel like obstacles. They become part of the unfolding process. And this understanding leads to one final realization. Spiritual growth isn't something separate from the natural world. Every ancient tradition understood this. Nature isn't just a setting. It's a living, breathing guide. Everything in nature reflects aspects of consciousness. Trees embody stillness and presence. They stand firm, yet remain flexible in the wind. Water teaches adaptability. It moves effortlessly, shaping itself to whatever it encounters without resistance. The sun represents expansion. It radiates without seeking approval, shining simply because that is its nature. The night sky reveals infinite awareness, a reminder that there is always something greater beyond the mind's perception. When nature is engaged with intentionally, something shifts. The mind quiets, the ego dissolves, the deeper self emerges. This is why every enlightened teacher, every wisdom tradition, has pointed to one truth. If you want to remember who you are, step outside. Observe. Listen. Let nature remind you. Because integration isn't about adding more knowledge. It's about dissolving the barriers between you and what has always been present. And once that happens, something even greater unfolds. This is where everything comes together. All the stages, all the insights, all the shifts in awareness, they aren't separate. They aren't steps leading to some final destination. They are all happening now. Because ascension isn't a path with an endpoint. It's an ever-expanding realization. And once this is seen clearly, one final truth emerges. Most seekers believe they are moving toward something, toward enlightenment, toward a higher state of being, toward some ultimate realization. But the deepest truth is this: there is nowhere to go. There is nothing to attain, because what you've been searching for has always been here. Ascension isn't about becoming something new. It's about stripping away everything that made you believe you were anything less than infinite. And the moment that illusion collapses, life transforms completely. Many believe spiritual evolution happens in a structured order, that each stage must be mastered before moving on. But consciousness doesn't work that way. At any given moment, different parts of your being may be experiencing multiple stages at once. One part may be letting go while another is stepping into service. One aspect may be healing while another is already aligned with divine connection. And that's completely natural. The key is not to force a stage or resist another. Instead, recognize that growth is fluid. Each moment is unfolding exactly as it needs to. Resistance fades. No need to force progress. Every experience is happening at the perfect time. Acceptance expands. Nothing is out of place. Every stage is part of the unfolding. Mastery deepens. Instead of moving through the stages, you become them. And that leads to the final question. For many, reaching this point brings a realization. If all stages merge, if there is no final goal, then what happens next? The answer? You become the path. There is no longer a separation between spiritual practice and daily life. There is no longer a sense of striving towards something distant. Everything is an expression of consciousness. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment is no longer something happening to you. It is something unfolding through you. And that is the ultimate realization. Because at the highest level of ascension, there is nothing left to reach for. There is only presence, only awareness, only the infinite unfolding of consciousness itself. And that is where true freedom begins. Everything up until this point has been leading to one realization, one truth that transcends all stages, all practices, and all teachings. Because no matter how far you've come on this journey, no matter how much you've awakened, there's still one question that lingers. What comes next? For centuries, seekers have chased higher states of consciousness, deeper truths, and ultimate enlightenment. But here's something most never realize. There is no final destination. There is no end to ascension. Because consciousness itself is infinite. And that changes everything. Most believe that spiritual evolution follows a linear path, that each stage is a step towards some final point of enlightenment. But the truth is much more profound. Ascension isn't about reaching somewhere. It's about expanding awareness to recognize that you were already there. Everything you have ever sought, clarity, peace, wisdom, connection, has always been within you, not in some distant future, not at the end of a long spiritual journey. Right here, right now. This is the secret that dissolves every illusion. Because the moment you stop seeking, stop chasing, stop striving for something beyond this moment, you realize you've already arrived. Many assume that spiritual growth is a step-by-step process, that one stage must be completed before moving to the next. But that's not how consciousness works. At any moment, you might be experiencing multiple stages at once. One part of you may be letting go while another is stepping into service. One aspect of your being may be healing while another is already aligned with divine connection. And that's perfectly natural, because these stages are not rigid levels, they are fluid expressions of growth. The key is to stop identifying with a stage and start recognizing the deeper movement of consciousness itself. When this shift happens, something powerful takes place. Resistance dissolves. You no longer feel the need to force progress. Acceptance expands. Every experience is seen as part of the unfolding. Mastery deepens. You no longer seek stages, you embody them. And once this realization takes hold, one final understanding emerges. For many, reaching this point brings a question. If all stages merge, if there's no final destination, then what happens next? The answer? You become the path. No longer searching, no longer seeking, no longer defining progress by external measures. You simply are. And in this state, life itself becomes the expression of pure consciousness. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment is no longer something happening to you. It is something unfolding through you. And that is the ultimate realization. Because at the highest level of ascension, there is nothing left to reach for. There is only presence, only awareness, only the infinite unfolding of consciousness itself. And that is where true freedom begins. Right now, you are exactly where you need to be. Every experience, every challenge, every insight you've had up until this moment has been guiding you, whether you realized it or not. But here's the difference. Now you see it. You no longer have to wonder where you stand on this journey. You no longer have to question whether you're evolving fast enough or doing it the right way. Because you now understand, ascension isn't something waiting for you in the future. It's happening right now. And with this awareness, you have a choice. You can continue as you were before, seeing these stages as something external to reach, or you can step fully into your truth. Live from this awareness. Move through life with the knowing that everything is already unfolding exactly as it should. Either way, the path is yours. But one thing is certain. After everything you've just unlocked, you will never see your spiritual journey the same way again. Everything up until this point has been leading to one realization, one truth that transcends all stages, all practices, and all teachings. Because no matter how far you've come on this journey, no matter how much you've awakened, there's still one question that lingers. What comes next? For centuries, seekers have chased higher states of consciousness, deeper truths, and ultimate enlightenment. But here's something most never realize. There is no final destination. There is no end to ascension. Because consciousness itself is infinite. And that changes everything. Most believe that spiritual evolution follows a linear path, that each stage is a step towards some final point of enlightenment. But the truth is much more profound. Ascension isn't about reaching somewhere. It's about expanding awareness to recognize that you were already there. Everything you have ever sought, clarity, peace, wisdom, connection, has always been within you, not in some distant future, not at the end of a long spiritual journey. Right here, right now. This is the secret that dissolves every illusion. Because the moment you stop seeking, stop chasing, stop striving for something beyond this moment, you realize you've already arrived. Many assume that spiritual growth is a step-by-step process, that one stage must be completed before moving to the next. But that's not how consciousness works. At any moment, you might be experiencing multiple stages at once. One part of you may be letting go while another is stepping into service. One aspect of your being may be healing while another is already aligned with divine connection. And that's perfectly natural, because these stages are not rigid levels, they are fluid expressions of growth. The key is to stop identifying with a stage and start recognizing the deeper movement of consciousness itself. When this shift happens, something powerful takes place. Resistance dissolves. You no longer feel the need to force progress. Acceptance expands. Every experience is seen as part of the unfolding. Mastery deepens. You no longer seek stages, you embody them. And once this realization takes hold, one final understanding emerges. For many, reaching this point brings a question. If all stages merge, if there's no final destination, then what happens next? The answer? You become the path. No longer searching, no longer seeking, no longer defining progress by external measures. You simply are. And in this state, life itself becomes the expression of pure consciousness. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment is no longer something happening to you. It is something unfolding through you. And that is the ultimate realization. Because at the highest level of ascension, there is nothing left to reach for. There is only presence, only awareness, only the infinite unfolding of consciousness itself. And that is where true freedom begins. Right now, you are exactly where you need to be. Every experience, every challenge, every insight you've had up until this moment has been guiding you, whether you realized it or not. But here's the difference. Now you see it. You no longer have to wonder where you stand on this journey. You no longer have to question whether you're evolving fast enough or doing it the right way. Because you now understand, ascension isn't something waiting for you in the future. It's happening right now. And with this awareness, you have a choice. You can continue as you were before, seeing these stages as something external to reach, or you can step fully into your truth. Live from this awareness. Move through life with the knowing that everything is already unfolding exactly as it should. Either way, the path is yours. But one thing is certain. After everything you've just unlocked, you will never see your spiritual journey the same way again.